Most people who ask who would win between these two dogs have already picked a side. They just want confirmation. Pitbull owners will say their dog is pound for pound the strongest animal alive. Cane Corso owners? They'll just laugh. Here's what's actually going on, and it's more interesting than the usual "both dogs are great" answer you get everywhere else. We're going to break this down by raw strength, bite force, build, and then the real question. If these two actually met in a confrontation, what happens? Stick around for that last part, because the answer isn't what either fan base wants to hear. Before you even get to bite force numbers, you have to understand what you're actually comparing here. A pit bull, specifically the American Pitbull Terrier, typically lands between 30 and 65 pounds. Stocky, dense, coiled like a spring. Every pound on that dog is working muscle. They were bred to move fast, grip hard, and not let go. That history is real, and it shows in their physique. Short legs, wide chest, thick neck, built low to the ground for a reason. A Cane Corso is a completely different category of animal. Males regularly hit 110 to 130 pounds. Some push past that. They're not just bigger, they're built on a different scale entirely. Deep chest, massive skull, bone structure that looks like it was designed for war, because historically it was. The Romans used these dogs in battle. That's not a metaphor. Actual military dogs. So right off the start, this is not an even matchup on size, not even close. The Pitbull is a sports car. The Cane Corso is a truck. Different categories. Now, pound for pound is where Pitbull advocates get loud, and they're not wrong about that specific claim. In terms of strength relative to body weight, the Pitbull is extraordinary. Their muscle density is genuinely unusual. There are documented cases of pit bulls pulling weights several times their own body mass. That's real. But pound for pound stops mattering in an actual physical confrontation. Nature doesn't grade on a curve. So in absolute pulling strength, the Cane Corso wins. More mass, more leverage, more bone to anchor the muscle to. A 120-pound Cane Corso is going to move you whether you like it or not. A 50-pound pit bull is going to try really hard. Think of it this way. A welterweight boxer might have better technique than a heavyweight. Better speed, better footwork. Doesn't mean you'd bet on them to hold their ground if the heavyweight grabs them. This is the number people obsess over, and there's a lot of bad data floating around. So let's be direct. Pitbull bite force comes in around 235 to 300 psi. That is not a small number. That's enough to shatter bones. The Pitbull's grip is also unusual. They're neurologically stubborn about releasing once they've committed. When a Pitbull bites, it bites through the problem. The Cane Corso bites at around 700 psi. That's not a small difference. That's more than double. The Cane Corso has one of the highest measured bite forces of any domestic dog breed. The skull structure alone tells the story. Broad, flat, wide-set jaw. Geometry of that head is built to generate crushing force, not just puncture. Different kind of bite entirely. A Pitbull bite is fast, gripping, relentless. A Cane Corso bite is structural damage on contact. Now, here's where it gets complicated, because bite force and strength aren't the full picture. Temperament and intent change everything about how these numbers play out in real life. And that's what we need to talk about before we get to the who wins question.
The pit bull has a complicated reputation, and most of it is built on bad ownership rather than inherent viciousness. Toward humans, properly socialized pit bulls are actually famously affectionate, notoriously so. They make poor guard dogs because they want to make friends with everyone. Their aggression, when it exists, tends to be dog-directed rather than human-directed. That's their history. The Cane Corso is different. This is a breed that was specifically developed to be protective, territorial, and handler-focused. They bond deeply to their family and are genuinely suspicious of strangers by default. That instinct isn't trained in, it's structural. A well-bred, well-socialized cane Corso is calm and controlled. An unsocialized one, it's a serious liability. What that means practically, a pit bull that gets into a confrontation is usually reactive, responding to a trigger, escalating fast, hard to redirect. A cane Corso that decides something is a threat, it's making a deliberate decision, different energy entirely. All right, the real question. If a pit bull and a cane Corso got into an actual confrontation, and this is uncomfortable for people to hear, the cane Corso wins the vast majority of the time. Not every time. Dogs are individuals, and outcomes aren't guaranteed. But if you're talking about what happens statistically, the weight difference alone is decisive. The pit bull's advantages are speed, tenacity, and grip. Those are real. An experienced pit bull that gets a grip on the right area can cause serious damage. That's happened. But the cane Corso has 60 to 80 pounds on it, double the bite force, and enough mass to pin and control the engagement. The pit bull's greatest weapon, its relentlessness, becomes less effective when the animal it's fighting can absorb the damage and respond with crushing force. It's like watching a smaller fighter who won't quit go up against someone who can just end it when they choose to. Heart matters, size matters more. The honest answer, a pit bull is not fighting a cane Corso on even terms. It can do real damage. It will not win. Here's the part nobody talks about after spending 10 minutes debating bite force numbers. Both of these dogs require an owner who knows what they're doing. That's not a disclaimer, it's the actual point. The pit bull is more forgiving of inexperienced ownership in some ways, easier to read, more human-focused, but they need consistent socialization early, or that dog-directed aggression becomes a real management challenge. Exercise is non-negotiable. Understimulated pit bulls remodel houses. The cane Corso is not a beginner's dog. Full stop. They need an owner who projects calm authority consistently, clear structure from day one. Left to drift, they'll make their own decisions about what's a threat, and their decisions are backed by 700 psi. That's not a dog you manage reactively. If you're drawn to the cane Corso because it sounds powerful, that's actually the worst reason to get one. They need a handler who's already confident, not someone trying to feel confident through the dog. So, where does this leave us? Pit bull, pound for pound, one of the strongest dogs alive, built for speed, tenacity, and heart, misunderstood by basically everyone who hasn't spent real time with one. Cane Corso, raw power, dominant bite force, protective instinct that runs deep. Not a dog that forgives bad ownership, not a dog that's soft on anything. In a direct confrontation, cane Corso. In terms of which dog is the better companion for most households, probably the pit bull, if only because the margin for error is wider. Which one would you choose? If you've owned either of these breeds, I want to know, does your dog match the reputation? Drop it in the comments. The best answers are always from people who actually live with these animals, not people who just watched videos about them.